Hi guys, this is me. This is Rusty 78609 in Central Texas. This is March the 21st, 2016. And this video today is in response to a comment by an individual that saw one of my videos. And in the video, I talked about having a quote home base because I do full-time RV. I have full-time RV'd for approximately 22 years, and I also go camping in my 2013 Prius. But having a home base caught this gentleman's attention, and he asked, first of all, what is the price of land in my area, and can you park an RV on the property? The answer to the question, the price of the property in this area, I'm in Central Texas. I'm near Marble Falls, Llano, Texas, northwest of Austin in the Texas Hill Country. It's a pretty place to live. And the price of land is, or can be, extremely expensive because it's a very popular area because of the Highland Lakes. There's a chain of lakes here that starts with Lake Buchanan, Inks Lake, Lake LBJ, Lake Travis, and this is a tourist area. And I bought my land here about 15 years ago, a little less than that, but approximately about 15 years. And at the time I bought the lots here in this area, they were pretty much unrestricted. They had a property owners association, a POA, but it was virtually inactive because of lack of interest. And I was looking for a place like that because if you can find an area where the property owners association is inactive or has been for years, then whatever restrictions they have probably are not going to be applied. And so I took a chance and bought the lots and parked my RV here, knowing full well that even then it was restricted to 500 square foot home. You could have mobile homes, and that was always a question: what's the difference between a mobile home and an RV? They're both mobile. And so anyway, I talked to one of the gentlemen that was a member of the POA, explained what I was going to do, and he said, well, no problem. As far as he could tell, they hadn't had an active association in years, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, I did, and I built a little deck, and I put a cover, and so it did become home base. What I would suggest is, no matter where you live in the USA or wherever you live, well, in the USA, I can speak to that. There are in cities and right outside of cities, there's property for sale all the time. And in the cities, you can find lots that are virtually unrestricted. And if you can find one in the city, then you can get all the city uh, hookups, the sewage and electric and water. It won't cost you too much. In my area here, this is a rural area, a little subdivision. They have their own little water supply. They got 2 water wells, and knock on wood, they've been bought out by a little town near here that a municipal water supply runs our system now, and it cost us $62 a month for a 2,000 gallon minimum, which is a little expensive actually in this area. But, I did haul water for a couple of years, but that's not very much fun. So my suggestion to people that are looking to have an economical home base would be this. Find you some property, lots preferably, that are in an area that is either unrestricted, and be careful there because you may get a hog farm next door or a city dump. But find you a place that's unrestricted or has minimal restrictions. Drive through it and see. If there's some RVs parked there already, then you've got a place you can definitely check into further and buy you a lot. You can buy any size. It doesn't matter what size. Any size lot is better than living in an RV park. For those of you that have lived in RV parks, you know that because an RV park is going to cost you now in Texas. It'll cost you anywhere. Probably the least expensive you could find would be $250 a month, and you pay everything except the water. Well, you do get free Wi-Fi. and up. And it's, so you're looking probably at $350 a month average in this area where I live right now for just an RV park. So for that same amount and much less, I mean much less, because I bought my lots here. I bought 3 lots 15 years ago for a total of $1,700, which is, excuse me, $7,200, and that's $2,400 a lot. Well, actually, I bought two for 3 and one for 24, something like that. Then anyway, 22,000, whatever it was. But and then I put my place right in the middle of them, and the only thing I have to pay is, of course, I pay the water, and then I pay my annual taxes, which run right here about $140 a year, which is nothing, and much cheaper than having a home or an apartment. So find you a place that's, you're going to have to look, but in the rural areas, the only thing you have to be careful of is one thing, you're going to have to drill a water well if there's no community water supply near you. I've lived in the country basically I grew up in the country. We had water wells. After I got into business, I bought homes out in the country and had water wells drilled. And so that's not an inexpensive proposition. And then, you have to maintain your water well. The pump goes out every now and then, the points stick, and all the different things that happen to water wells. So that can be a little bit of a headache. But if you find a little area or community outside the city that has its own little water supply, and it's not heavily restricted, then you might be able to go to the property owners association, say, look, I'm going to put a RV on some lots and cover it and make it look neat. They may work with you on that, but that's the way to go. Unfortunately, there's nothing here, nothing around me for sale right now. Number one. Number two, they've gone back to the site-built restriction because the POA is a little more active now, and they're trying to clean up the quote neighborhood, because it kind of went down. I mean, some people drug in some old mobile homes and then abandoned them, and then the kids were in the neighborhood tear them up, and there's trash in the yards, and there's old cars in some of the yards, and there's an old boat and different. I mean, it kind of just went downhill, and near me there's four little subdivisions, all kind of connected here. 3 of them are pretty nice. The one I live in is the least nice, and I chose that because the restrictions were minimal and they weren't even forcing compliance with those, and that's why I did this. And but you can find a place. In fact, I remember I was teaching in Refugio, Texas, and there was a game warden there that had actually was building toward his retirement, and what he was doing, and I thought it was genius. I didn't adopt the idea, probably could have, didn't. What it is, he would buy a lot in the city, that had been, taxes owed on it or whatever, and he'd go in and pay the taxes and take over the lot and make sure that it was zoned so that people could put mobile homes on these lots. And then what he would do is he would set a hookup up, a full hookup. He'd have the septic and water and electric available, and then someone could pull their mobile home in there and rent that lot or a part of that lot. Some of the lots he divided into 3 or 4 spots, and then he would charge anywhere from $200 to $300 a month rent on those lots. Well, what he had done over a period, when I knew him, he'd been doing it for about 10 years, and he had about 40 of those lots in different little towns in the area, and all of them were rented. People are always looking for a spot to put a mobile home on that's reasonably cheap and convenient to their work. And he was raking in around $12,000 a month in rent. And the beauty of it all is, of course, he paid the water, because what reason he paid the water is if the tenant didn't pay the rent, then he'd have the water cut off, and that would drive him out. And as far as tearing up the property, didn't have to worry about that because it was just dirt he owned. If they tore up anything, it was their own home. They owned their mobile homes. And he also had a couple where the people had abandoned the mobile home, just left it, and he came in and got a vendor's lien against it, or whatever you call it, renter's lien or whatever, and tenant, or I can't remember, landlord's lien, I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, he did that and eventually took over those, and now he owns those and rents them for $500 or $600 a month. So that's another little business idea that could be done fairly economically. As far as home base for an RV, uh, ideally find you a lot either in the city or out right outside the city. I'm about 8 miles from the nearest town, with a population about 1,000 or 800, and and the nearest Walmart to me is about 20 miles one way. And so it's really a nice area, and I was really lucky. But are there other areas that I'm aware of? Yeah, there are, but they're not in area. They're in remote areas. When you get out, you can go out around in West Texas, and get out around Big Bend. Well, hell, you can buy land out on. I lived on the Terlingua Ranch. You can buy land there for $200 an acre. I mean, I had 20 acres that I bought and and lived on out there. Of course, it's just raw land. You'll have to haul water and use solar power. You'd be off the grid. Could you live economically? Yeah. Is it a beautiful place? Hell yeah. It's beautiful sunsets, beautiful sunrises. The climate year round's okay. But you got to be up. You can't be down by what's called the river. You got to be, up close to. I guess you'd call it the Terlingua Ranch headquarters. But I'm not going to get into details on that. But there are places, and then the cheap land out there, and you can go to some of these little rural areas in any state, small communities, small towns, and you'll find lots that have virtually been abandoned. And if you like that area, then you could buy a lot, and that can be your home base. I looked at places as I traveled through New Mexico, and I found two in Silver City that would have worked perfectly, and one in Deming that was nice. And then where else? Oh, I was in uh, Taos, New Mexico, and right on the west side of the town, as you go out of town, on the left side, there's a little kind of I guess you should call it a little subdivision that didn't develop, and the lots are just cheap as dirt, and they're totally unrestricted. But so you can find deals. It just depends on where you live and what you want. And home base is great. I got to tell you, because RV parks to me suck. Some of them are really nice, but still, you're jammed in there, and your neighbors change all the time. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not so good. Uh, you're paying a premium for virtually nothing. You're never going to own anything. And whereas if you're able to, and you can get owner financing. That's another thing. You can get owner financing on any land, because land's not going to depreciate. The person that does owner financing rarely runs any risk. The only thing you have to be careful of if you buy land that's owner financed, and again, I was a CPA for 20 years. I know a little bit all, and I've bought and sold land. But if you buy land and it's owner financed, uh, they're going to want to give you what's called a contract for deed. And what that means is you don't get the deed until you pay the land off. Well, if anything happens in the interim, in other words, if this guy that owns the land gets in trouble with the IRS and they slap a big tax lien on him, well, that'll be on your property too, because you don't own it. He still owns it until you have the warranty deed. Okay? He still owns it until you have the warranty deed. So if you do get owner financing, get the deed up front. Let him go ahead and deed that property to you, and then you pay by the month or whatever you agree to. But contract for deeds. Have I ever done that? Yes, I did it one time, and I worried every month about the guy. But fortunately, he was a guy he was a wealthy individual. He had moved from Victoria, Texas, out to New Mexico. He was very wealthy, and the chances of him going belly up were slim. And so I ran the risk, and I bought some lots out in a rural area. And a couple of years later, I built a home on it. Well, when I built the home on it, the bank wrapped it all up into one note and paid him off. So, I only had 2 years that I was exposed. Knock on wood, it worked. But again, be careful with contract for deeds if you're going to do that for a home base. Owner financing on raw land, very easy. Very easy. Not a problem. The downsides, if there are any, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to drill a water well. Number two, you're going to have to bring in your own electric, and bringing in electric now is not cheap. It used to be really cheap. but it's not now. It cost me $2,500 to have them put in what do they call it? A transformer and different things, and you got to put a meter loop up, and the total of that was like $2,500, and to hook up to our little simple water system out here, $2,500. You know, the 2 years before I hooked up, it was 800. Anyway, things change, and they change overnight. But you know, once you get over those two hurdles, and you know, after you pay for it in 1 year, because if you had to rent an apartment or rent an RV, a place at an RV park, at 300, that's $3,600 you've paid for your electric and part of your water hookup. Boom, right there. So, but be that as it may, those are just a few little things, tips, and thanks for the comment. I really appreciate. I really appreciate the comments. And number, also, I noticed that I think I've got like 30 subscribers, and that just freaks me out. I mean, wow. I mean, what can I say? You guys are desperate for something to watch. But anyway, yeah, that's great. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. It's kind of like a little pat on the back, I suppose. But and also the view count's gone up a little bit, and I thank y'all for that too. But yeah, keep those comments coming. If you have a comment about it, I've done so many different things in my life that I have a wealth of information that could be useful. Maybe it won't be. I don't know. You know, my sons are so brilliant that they don't need this information. You know, isn't it amazing? You can tell somebody, a stranger, something, and they'll listen to you sometimes. But your children, you know, they can't hear you. You know what I mean? They know it all. I don't know how they were born knowing it all. You know, but be that as it may, thanks again for the comment. I sincerely appreciate it. This is Rusty 78609 in Central Texas. That's my channel. No, Rusty 78609 is my channel. All lowercase, no spaces. I live in Central Texas, USA. I full-time RV. I live in an RV right now. This is an RV I'm sitting in my office. And I do go camping in a Prius. I've been doing that for about 3.5 years. I really love it. It's much easier than pulling an RV for me. And so anyway, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them and I'll respond, because it gives me a reason to do a video, and I enjoy doing these things. And the weather here today is a little cooler. Right now it's about 58 to 60. And again, this is March 21st, 2016. And thumbs up to you guys. Thanks a lot for the comment. I do appreciate it. Y'all have a good day. Carpe diem means seize the day. Adios, amigos. Bye bye.